sport. Now we have a new sport. It's called the rape game, collective harassment, Tarish. And this game has 3 rules to it. You take a lone woman in a very public place where there's a large gathering of people. You surround her by Muslim men, and they sexually assault and rape her repeatedly, and when they get done, they rob her. So it's going on throughout Europe. And no, it's not being reported. It's not being reported. The silence is deafening. And here again, on a very public place, multiple men sexually assaulting a lone woman. Polish news magazines are attempting to warn their women. Unlike in Western Europe, Eastern Europe is trying to take a stand. And so they're trying to warn their women of what they face. And even the high seas, rape on the high seas. 1,700 Swedish children took part in spring break. And one girl was gang raped by Muslim students while on board. Well, how about here? New York City. Commissioner of Police, Bill Bratton, recently issued a warning to women in New York City. Don't get into a taxi cab alone at night, especially if you leave a club or a bar after drinking. Because what you're signifying to the cab driver is you're being disobedient, and you need to be punished. You need to be punished. And how about Uber drivers? Uber drivers, Muslim taxi cab drivers in Michigan State assaulting and raping students. New Haven, Connecticut, at the University of Florida, Dallas, Texas, Philadelphia, St. Paul. Now I ask you, what if all those people have been affiliated with the Methodist Church? Don't you think that would have been above the fold? Don't you think that would have gotten a great deal of publicity here in this country? Again, the silence is deafening. When we talk about Somalis in Minneapolis-St. Paul area, the largest population of Somalis outside of Mogadishu. And we've got Somali gangs, and this particular one was taken out of action 2 years ago. It's a grooming gang. A gang grooming young women between the ages of 15 and 17 years old for the sex trade. And recently, on April 16th, 5 Somali refugees assault a lone woman in Minneapolis. Again, no media coverage. So why are they doing this? Why all of these sexual attacks? Well, if you know anything about Islamic law, it's justified. It's justified. Non-Muslim women are considered booty, the spoils of war. And remember, this is the house of war. This is a non-Muslim country. So it's considered the house of war. And non-Muslim women are to be taken sexually. Rape and sex trafficking is merely spoils of war. And it's all laid out in the Quran. It's all justified there. A Muslim man can take 4 Muslim wives plus what his right hand possesses. Now, what they're talking about is right hand is public hand. And he can take as many non-Muslim women as sex slaves as he wants. And if that wasn't enough, we have the example of Muhammad, who's considered the most perfect human being to be emulated. Now, who's promoting all of this stuff? Well, how many of you heard of this organization? This is just one of several, the Institute of Muslim Minority Affairs. Has anyone heard of this organization before? Maybe one. Well, it's run out of Saudi Arabia. One of our allies, right? And the purpose of the program is to what? Spread Islam to non-Muslim lands and to establish Sharia law. Don't lose sight of that. To establish Sharia law as the law of the land. Through gradual change, called settlement. Bit by bit by bit. increase the heat.
May I ask one question, please? What does the HN mean?
Host nation.
What's that?
Host nation. Now, who started this program? How many have heard of Abedin? Well, her father. Her father started this program as part of the Muslim Brotherhood. And what's their agenda? Organize Muslims into a collective unit. Just like you've heard tonight, not assimilate. In fact, the Muslim Brotherhood prevents them from assimilating. Remember, the majority of these refugees, they can't speak the language, they don't understand our culture, they don't understand much of anything, they don't possess any skills, and when the leadership is provided by the Muslim Brotherhood, what would you do? You will follow the leadership. And there are many ways to increase the numbers, not just through immigration or refugee resettlement. The birth rate. Muslim women have on average 4 to 6 babies per. How many do we have here for American women? 1.5? Target non-Muslim women for marriage. It is a program where young Muslim men are seeking out vulnerable young Muslim women, or non-Muslim women for marriage, and once they get married, have children, and guess who keeps the children when the man files for divorce? And we repeat the cycle again. And then, of course, disaffected blacks in our prison system are being specifically targeted for conversion. So the program agenda, well laid out, and they have a publication, the Journal of Muslim Minority Affairs. And guess who was one of the assistant editors of it? You guessed it, Abedin. And there's her name listed on the letterhead as assistant editor. And if that wasn't enough, Abedin also has other baggage. When she was in college, she served with the Muslim Student Association, which was the first Muslim Brotherhood group to come to the United States. Now I ask you, how did she get a security clearance?
Girlfriend got up on
Well, our friends in the House Democrats, they have a resolution pending before the House of Representatives, which maybe some of you haven't heard about, many of you haven't, to criminalize criticism of Islam. House Resolution 569. House Resolution 569 to suppress any legitimate discussion of Islam. And of course, to label it as bigotry and hateful rhetoric because it inspires violence against Muslims. Now watch what happens anytime there's a terrorist attack committed by what we would call a Muslim terrorist attack here. The first thing that Muslim groups do is say, watch for the backlash. Watch for the hate speech. Watch for the Islamophobia. Watch for the persecution of Muslims. It never happens. The most persecuted group in this country right now, today, according to the FBI, are Jews, not Muslims. And yet they continue to tell us, watch for the backlash. It's almost getting almost. Remember what the president said. The future must not belong to those who disparage the prophet. And then we have our Attorney General on December 3rd, making a statement because of all of the rhetoric that's being now voiced against Muslims, that the Department of Justice will take action. Will take action. This is intimidation, trying to intimidate people like you've heard here tonight to remain silent. And what about our talking heads on Fox and CNN? All criticizing Pamela Geller when she had the Draw of Muhammad contest, when she wanted to exercise her freedom of speech. Well, let's talk a little bit about conditioning the West to accept Islam. Mosque construction, at a low figure, 2,400 and counting. What women wear, the subjugation of women. Removing any self-identity for women in public. Foot baths being installed in many of our public institutions and universities at taxpayer expense, so they can properly prepare themselves prepared. Speaking of prayer, public prayer in New York City on a Friday afternoon. And in New Jersey, public prayer. And private rooms in many of our public facilities being converted to Muslim prayer rooms. The National Cathedral converted to a mosque on a Friday afternoon. If you go to Target, you check out, want to pay your alcohol or pork products. If you see a sign like this, go to a different cashier because the Muslim would find it offensive. In Oklahoma State Capitol converted to a mosque. In Michigan, Taylor City Council approves a resolution condemning Islamophobia. After the Chattanooga attack, you'd all heard about that, the Empire State Building celebrated the end of Ramadan by bathing itself in green. And the next time you go to Disney World, Orlando International Airport, you might see a sign like this, pointing towards one of their prayer rooms where they have state-of-the-art foot baths, valued at $250,000. Pork has been outlawed in the U.S. prison system. Foot baths at the University of Georgia. Sears agrees to remove an infidel cap because it's considered offensive. Walmart, too, removes an offensive Halloween costume. And Minneapolis Mayor Betsy Hodges shows her solidarity by wearing the hijab. At the university, or the U.S. Postal Service going to issue a new stamp.
Don't buy it.
And at the University of Iowa is promoting gender apartheid by separate prayer rooms for its students. And how about Sesame Street? And finally, a North Kansas City, Missouri high school counselor, Martha DeVries, wears the hijab publicly every Monday to show support for Muslims and refugees. How about our schools? Homework assignment. The homework assignment on the left, pretend you are a Muslim student and write 3 paragraphs about your experiences. Union Grove High School in Wisconsin. 7th grade students in Warren County, Tennessee, instructed to write, Allah Akbar is the only God. Allah is the only God. And in practicing calligraphy by copying the Shahada symbol in Virginia. Hennepin School District near Minneapolis, students sing Allah Akbar at a Christmas concert. And my favorite, 9th graders at Salem Junior High School in Utah told to make a propaganda poster for a terrorist group. This is what's going on in our school system. And then finally in Kansas, running the 5 pillars.
They did that right here.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
And in Denver, parents were told to call into the school board because their young children were going to take a field trip to a local mosque. And to go take the field trip to the local mosque, young girls had to be appropriately covered. Massachusetts took a field trip to a local mosque, and you could see what was presented to them. Young girls were taught how to pray. Not only taught how to pray, and there's the instructor up at the far corner, but taught what to pray. The Shahada, I believe there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Ladies and gentlemen, you say that 3 times, you're now considered a Muslim. Spring Grove, Pennsylvania Middle School hosted a cultural diversity training on how to properly wear the hijab. At Vernon Hills High School outside Chicago, Texas classroom. Corner Canyon High School in Utah, students told to show solidarity with Muslims. And at Pine Bush High School in New York, students say the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under Allah. In March 2016, in the entire student body of the St. Petersburg Catholic High School in Florida, forced to hear Ahmed Badir speak about Islamophobia. Ahmed Badir openly supports Hezbollah, has worked with the Council of American Islamic Relations, a front group for Hamas, and he blames publicly ISIS on America. And how about teacher training in Pennsylvania? Cultural diversity training, June of last year, 50 Pennsylvania school teachers participated in it, and then they learned how to pray. Michigan school teacher staff wear head coverings with their students. You can see them lined up in the back. And Houston, Texas will open an Arabic immersion school in 2016, making global citizens. And then adopting Muslim holidays. More and more and more schools are doing it. Montgomery County, Maryland, and finally our friends up in Washington, D.C. And the poor parent that ever dares to object. A retired Marine banned from his daughter's high school because he dared object to the training she was receiving. Now I ask you, if someone walks into a bank, what good are the security cameras? We don't know if it's a man or woman, what's under that, yet we're told that's a religious garment. Now fortunately, some Muslims are speaking up. And I give you just a couple of examples so you won't lose hope. In Canada, this individual, Rachel Raza, considered the political flag of the burqa. It symbolizes male dominance. It's the submission of women. And she's gone out publicly to say, ban this. We don't need this here in our culture. It has no place in our culture. Hershey Ali calls it an apartheid. And I'm sure you all know who she is. And we have this woman also speaking out. Asir Nomadi, another Muslim woman, saying, ban it. Well, how do the progressives respond to all of this pressure? Well, they make it mainstream. Try to make a fashion statement, bit by bit by bit. If that doesn't work, then we can sexualize it. Make it attractive. Beyonce. Make it attractive for our young women to not to feel guilty about. And then lastly, textbooks. Textbooks devoting more and more information to Islam. Now, one last thought that I want to leave you. I know we're getting antsy here and we're going to open up some questions and answers. You've got an unholy alliance out there with the progressives, the far left. They're in bed with all of this, with every bit of it. They're encouraging it. Remember who controls the media, who controls our government, who controls the culture. And they've always aligned themselves with the far leftist causes, whether it be socialism, Marxism, communism. And we may have beaten back the Marxists, but they conquered the far left in academia. At least you think that this has not happened before. It only takes is a small group of dedicated people in Germany, China, Japan, Russia. Oh. Let's not forget what the 9/11 Commission told us. What motivated this group was what? Islamic law. And that's what's motivating the current group, Islamic law. They have all the justification they need. And this is an insurgency. How many former military do we have in here? Look at all that. Guys, you got one more battle to fight. You've got one more battle to fight tonight and tomorrow. Otherwise, your grandchildren are going to suffer. And we've got to get on board and support the people that talk to you tonight. So, closing thoughts. This is evil. Evil. But we got to do something about it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
A couple quick little things I wanted to recognize. Leo Hillman, can you stand up? He's from Atlanta, Georgia. He writes for the WND. Introduce yourself to him. He's an amazing investigative journalist who is probing into the truth on these issues. I also want to introduce a friend of mine who's videoing over there. Guy, he's from North Carolina, and he is part of this incredible mission to try to bring truth to the light on many issues. He was going to take a minute, but we don't have it right this minute, but just if you want to talk to him about the transgender bathroom issue and the governor suing the federal government and Obama, he's got a lot of information on that, and we love that. We love the pushback. It is never the wrong time to stand up and do the right thing, even if it looks like it's going to be overwhelming, even if it looks impossible, if it's hard. If there is something that is on your heart, it's not there by accident. And it is now a time in our country and our local community that we have to, what we've been practicing for so many years, take action. Some of my friends were just saying, what's the call to action? I can't give you any specifics. I am an attorney involved in a pending litigation, and I represent a specific individual client. But I would say that you all are very smart people who are sovereign, who are created in an image of a God who loved you so much that he gave you free will, and you will figure out what you're supposed to do and then do it. And now let's do some question and answers. Suzanne and Brian and David, come on up. I'll be available for a few questions and answers too, but I know you guys might want to do it with these guys.
I know you're late. I mean, this is a really big meeting, and I'm sorry that it's running over, but I really don't know. We understand, but you want to stay there.
You gotta have the microphone, you can't hear.
As you're walking out the door, go to restoretheusa.net. You download a petition to hand deliver your legislator. Don't just call them. Let them see the whites of your eyes. But this has to be a massive thing. We're just now starting. So I just wanted to, that is something you can do.
Yeah, there's a wave. I mean, there's a Secure South Carolina. There's people who set up social media. There's people who communicate. If you really want to know the truth, Lindsey Graham was behind lobbying this. He tried to do biblical immigration. He conducted that unholy alliance with the Southern Baptist Network. Jim Goodrow went up to Washington and lobbied. Last time I saw, Evangelical Charity did not say go and lobby a corrupt politician to set up a non-vetting, hostile takeover and put people in an isolation on a welfare system with the South Carolina Department of Social Services and basically put them in witness protection. That is not Evangelical Charity. This is a complete fraud. And then, because they take the federal money, people can't proselytize with these non-governmental agencies. Meaning that your First Amendment right has just been circumvented and is going on right now. And that's a huge thing on the First Amendment.
I'll speak loud. Where you showed at the end the ultimate objective is, and particularly the support by leftist groups, is the ultimate objective is to totally overthrow our government. And is this why Obama and others are supporting this, or are they other ultimate objectives for our political leaders that are supporting this?
Yeah, most of those, if you think about most of your progressives, they think our Constitution's outdated. That the Bill of Rights needs to be changed. Now, last time I checked, that's subversion. And if you don't think that that's the ultimate objective, then hopefully I gave you some ideas tonight of how drip by drip by drip the culture is being changed as well. And we don't recognize it because it is so subtle. That is the insidious nature of it. That it is so subtle. And let somebody speak out. They're going to be labeled a racist and Islamophobe and get us to shut up.
And let me just say this though, if you have a phobia, the actual technical legal definition of a phobia is a 4-element thing that you have to actually have to be able to be legitimately called a phobic, and none of us up here are. It has to be an unreasonable fear, which this is not. It also has to stop you from being able to go out in public and do anything. This is not. And so it fails for so many things. So we just need to take the authority back of the message. We've been allowing lies and to reign the day, and these fraudulent programs. They are not truth, they are not good laws. Most of our founding fathers recognized that the more laws you have, you're not any more safe. So we need to fight back with these laws. You need to get into your school systems and fight back there. You need to push back if there's anything that's overreaching your rights. And the objective of the enemy is absolutely to take over. What's our objective? Do we know? All right, well, what do we want to do? We want to also preserve freedom. We need to know what a free society looks like. Why are we free? How do we keep it? Brian.
I have a tricky lawyer with a question.
All right. Give it to Suzanne.
Okay. In a lawyer's language, I'd say, what is your prayer for relief? But really what I want to know is, what is your lawsuit trying to do? Are you trying to get an injunction against the governor? Or are you
Yeah, it's
trying
public
to
record.
stop the funding? I mean, what are you
That's
trying-
exactly, it's an all of the above tactic, which is a wonderful lawyer way of handling things. We pled a lot of different things. Namely is under the South Carolina Rules of Civil Procedure, Rules 65 and 66. We're asking for a temporary restraining order of this program until it can be investigated. And we're asking for a receiver who is a money man CPA who can start looking at what the budgets are and how the money commingles. Yes.
One thing, so that we go out here with some kind of action. Everybody here could just call Nikki Haley, that would be one thing. And then the other thing is, I wondered, is there a list of those 9 organizations and those other subcontracting, many of which are churches, which bother me so terribly, because it's very hard for us as Christians to be combating that leftist influence in these churches. And I don't find anything in the scripture that tells you have to be self-destructive. And there is some way to get that message across to these people, and they use social justice as a cloud for socialism, really. And it has nothing to do with Christian charity or Christian taking care of others. So the first thing is, can we get the list somewhere?
I would say a great reference is Refugee Resettlement Watch. Ann Corcoran, Mary's got some books back here. Refugee Resettlement Watch. Just Google it. She is awesome on this stuff. WND, absolutely. WorldNet Daily. You've got to sign up for their own, on the internet. They will keep you informed on all this. Yes, ma'am. It has fact sheets. It has everything you want on that site.
Mr. King, in the back, did you have a question?
Yes. Have you thought ahead, after you, this lawsuit, this is for you all, if the judge that will be sitting on this case, have you thought ahead if this judge is manipulated from your Justice Department to rule against you because of the corruption that's in the justice system? Have you thought about a backup plan? After all, Hillary's still walking around.
Right, do we think about is the judge getting calls from the governor late at night saying, you better do what we want you to do? Yeah, we talk about it all the time. What can we do? This is what we can do. We can come out and we can create public awareness so that people like you leave here and say, you know what? I'm going to do something. I'm making some calls. I'm going to flip some rocks, and somebody's going to know that I'm watching what they're doing. But right now, they think nobody's watching. That's why we're out here talking, so that people can say, we're watching you. We're watching you. So yes, we talked about it, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, I got another point.
You and I did talk about that more in detail. Right now, I'm optimistic that our American jurisprudence system is not completely a failure, and that if we keep doing the right thing, it is a David and Goliath moment, but I'm optimistic.
Follow up to Rita's question. I went on and looked at it a little bit and saw names like the Lutheran Social Services, the Catholic Charities, the Baptist. Are they the ones actually?
Yes, you're talking about the 9 GOLAGs. Lutheran Services is one, Hebrew Aid Society, Catholic, yes. Right. International Rescue Committee is huge.
The Baptist organization also?
Those are the volunteer agencies that are responsible. They're getting paid federal dollars. Yes, big federal dollars. I mean, it's, like I said, it's a big money operation.
Here's something that's interesting too, and Jane might like this, and this is the Hilton Head Island Chamber of Commerce was being sort of investigated, and at one point, somebody who wanted to know some information put a Freedom of Information Act on the Hilton Head Chamber of Commerce. They said that they weren't subject to it because they weren't a public agency. These public agencies, any one of you, I mean, a massive Freedom of Information Act waive would be a beautiful thing, asking direct questions at these state agencies and everything. But this new case that just recently came out, and it's the Hilton Head Island Chamber of Commerce, it is in the process of being appealed, but the state of the law is that because the Hilton Head Island Chamber of Commerce takes so much government money, state money and county money and the A-tax, that it is now a public entity and subject to Freedom of Information Act requests. And so it would be unprecedented, but it would be something, is if people started doing Freedom of Information Acts on these nonprofits as well. They take so much government money. It's just a suggestion. I'm not giving advice on that.
It works. We've done it in Virginia.
Yeah, that's good.
I have a hard time understanding when there's so much separation of church and state in this country. How do they get away with no separation of mosque and state?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's part of our lawsuit. There's a huge, great argument. And one of the best things to do in lawfare is to take the enemy's argument and turn it and use it against them for your own good. And we're doing that.
Well, that's the other thing too, is you're talking about they can't evangelize, but yet we are using our taxpayer dollars to bring these people with this with the Islamic ideology. It's almost like we are paying them for their missions to come here and do this to us, and it's by our own hands. Okay.
To follow up on your question, sir, I think most of you have heard of Common Core. That's one of the reasons why you don't want Common Core, because it makes some of these standards require the teaching of some of this stuff.
Yeah, sure. Okay, this gentleman, you've been so patient, thank you.
Okay, we are, right now, the House of Representatives did pass the Syrian refugee bill, which is veto proof from the president. Right now, our problem is the Senate not working for the American people. They are traitors to the American people, as well as President Obama. And everybody should call the president up in regard to this matter. Call up the senators. Tim Scott's working with us on that. But Lindsey Graham is a traitor. I have no trust for him. He should be removed from office. He should be impeached.
And keep doing it. It doesn't hurt to keep doing it and keep trying. The hide the coconut shell game is really one that our elected officials like to play. And so just keep doing that. But that's why Brian decided to file a lawsuit as well.
I was wondering if we could hear just 1 minute from Mr. Leo from WND, just since he came so far and he's got such great research information.
Yes, come on up, Leo. And then if everybody does want to stay, Guy can speak about the bathroom issue and that situation. Yep.
You said that you've got all these other big law firms and SARS group and everything against you. Who is with you? Because you are one military attorney.
That's right. So far, we've been able to successfully get as far as we have with myself and Brian Bilbrough and some friends of mine that don't mind reviewing some of my work. I felt like Martin Luther when I drafted that first complaint. For a week, drafting is not my favorite thing. Research and drafting, I was the C student. And so what we need to answer your question? It's us right now. And so far, we're going to keep doing it. And then hopefully the right people will come alongside us and we'll have a movement. Leo, come on.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm not really a speaker and writer, but it really, okay, can you hear me now? Yes. Great, thanks. I was just saying I'm not really a speaker, I'm a writer, and I came here to get a second go-around from Lauren and Brian. I did one story already on the lawsuit that they filed, and I just have to take my hat off to both of them and what they're doing. And one of the things Brian said is just so true, that they think nobody's watching. And there's just so much that can go wrong in closed rooms when nobody's watching, and you've got politicians on the one hand, and you've got unelected bureaucrats on the other, and you've got bolags who answer to nobody, or at least think they don't. And we just need to unravel that, start at the top down. But from what I have found across the country, South Carolina is not alone. And don't feel like you're alone. We have got what we call pockets of resistance going on in more than a dozen states right now. Michigan, believe it or not. A man named Dick Manaseri has been working with me, and he is just a real go-getter, and he's doing the same thing you guys are doing here. He's writing letters to the editor, to the local newspapers. He's going on local radio stations. You'd be surprised. You'd really be surprised how many times you can get on a local radio station to talk about this topic. You can't get on Fox News anymore. It's pretty much shut down to people like us. But you can still get on local radio and you can put this message out. And I just encourage you all to, number one, don't feel like you're alone. It's going on all over Montana, Michigan, Idaho, even Minnesota, and all over, like I said, about a dozen states. They call them pockets of resistance. So don't feel like you're alone, and don't be afraid to speak out. Yes, sir. Fox News is, as you know, run by Rupert Murdoch. There's an organization called the Partnership for a New American Economy. Look that up online, and you'll see who one of the leaders of it is. You got Michael Bloomberg, you got Bob Iger of Disney, you've got Rupert Murdoch. And that group is a combination of corporate CEOs, like those men, and also U.S. mayors. And it's a very, very powerful organization that nobody's heard of. And they are working very hard to seed our communities with refugees and immigrants that do not want to assimilate and do not have any respect for Judeo-Christian values.